We have all been suffering with this pandemic, and now a vaccine is right around the corner, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. But what if something goes wrong with the vaccine? What happens if you get the vaccine and you die? Can you sue the manufacturers? That is a hard no. I don't know about all of you, but I am tired of living with this pandemic. It's been a tough year for me, and I know it's been a tough year for a lot of you as well. So I am pretty excited about the prospect of the COVID vaccines that have been developed. I fully intend to get vaccinated as soon as I feel the vaccine is safe. However, these vaccines were developed faster than any vaccine has ever been developed in history. Being a lawyer and knowing quite a bit about the various immunities that are granted to vaccine manufacturers, I naturally questioned whether someone that was injured or even killed would be able to sue anyone for the harm. And I'm going to cover that in this video, as well as how I intend to approach the vaccine for myself and my children. A lot of you are probably familiar with the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986, which effectively shifts the liability for vaccine injuries from the manufacturers to a government fund, which has actually paid out billions of dollars to vaccine injury victims. Well, the National Vaccine Injury Fund is off the table for the COVID vaccines. The COVID vaccines are actually covered under the Public Readiness Emergency Preparedness Act. Everyone calls it the PrEP Act. I did a video covering the PrEP Act a number of months ago. To briefly rehash, Health and Human Services Secretary Azar invoked the PrEP Act for any COVID countermeasures. Since then, the invocation of the PrEP Act has been amended several times, and vaccines intended to grant COVID immunity are definitely covered. What does this mean? To start, it means if you or a loved one is injured or killed by any of the COVID vaccines, you cannot sue Pfizer or AstraZeneca or any of the manufacturers. And unless you can get around the PrEP Act, you will not be able to recover from the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund. Before we get too much further into this, I want to point out that there is a reasonable chance that the PrEP Act will be held to be not constitutional. I'm not going to get into details on this, but I've talked to some prominent personal injury attorneys, and there is definitely a plan to challenge the PrEP Act with some absolutely top-notch attorneys who will be spearheading that if there are widespread injuries due to COVID countermeasures like a vaccine. However, let's assume for now that once the PrEP Act eventually makes its way to the Supreme Court, a majority of the 9 justices determine that it is constitutional. In that case, the only recourse that you will have if you're injured or if a loved one is killed will be to recover from what is called the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. This is another federally administered program, and in a nutshell, recoveries, the money that you get to compensate you for any injuries you or loved ones suffer, will be far lower than what the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund pays out, and establishing liability will be a lot more difficult. Frankly, that is the entire purpose of the PrEP Act, to wipe out any chance for injured persons to recover significant amounts of money for emergency countermeasures like the COVID vaccines. Don't let anyone tell you different. As difficult as it is to recover from the National Vaccine Injury Fund, and it is difficult, that program is a cakewalk compared to the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. And while for the most part vaccines are safe, you can search the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System yourself, and I actually suggest that you do. Thousands of people receive severe injuries from vaccines every year, and 100 or more die. I will leave a link to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System in the description, so you can see I'm not making this up. And if someone wants to come along and nitpick this claim, feel free. That's what the comments are for. So this might sound like I'm telling you to not get the vaccine. That could not be further from the truth. There are a lot of reasons that you will want to get the vaccine. The only thing that is going to get us and the rest of the world back to a normal life in 2021 is a vaccine. So if you want a normal life, you are going to want to get the vaccine for yourself and your family as quickly as possible. To start, the airlines and potentially other industries are developing a COVID passport, essentially a digital document that will indicate that you've been vaccinated. The exact outlines of this program are still not known. For example, it's unclear right now if the airlines will let you establish immunity with an antibody test or whether the only way to establish immunity will be with a vaccine record. However, it's pretty clear that by summer of next year, if you want to fly on a commercial airline, you're going to need this COVID passport. Want to go to a foreign country? Vaccination papers, please. Want to fly to Hawaii? Ditto. Now, viewers of this channel are probably wondering, is this practice legal? Can the airlines really force you to get vaccinated if you want to fly? And the answer is yes, as long as they structure their program correctly. Under the Constitution, there really is nothing to prevent a private company from imposing a vaccination requirement before they provide service. It's not a common practice, but that does not mean it cannot be done. The one exception I can think of is the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, which prohibits discrimination based on disability. This means that the airlines are going to have to provide some kind of an exception for persons that cannot, for medical reasons, get vaccinated. Nonetheless, if they craft the program properly, the vaccination passport is very likely to stand up in court. So if you want to get on an airplane in 2021, you should plan on getting a shot. Another question that I've heard is whether employers can mandate that their employers get vaccinated or lose their jobs. And the answer is, again, yes, as long as those are private employers and the requirement has some appropriate exceptions for the ADA. Certain large employers, some of the fast food chains, some of the big retailers, appear to already be gearing up to require their employees be vaccinated. Understandably, this makes a lot of employees, especially those that do not intend to get the vaccine at all, nervous. And to cut to the chase, there is nothing in the Constitution that prohibits private employers from requiring employees be vaccinated. Again, they will have to have exceptions for persons with medical issues that would prevent them from being vaccinated, but as long as the employers structure the requirement properly, they can require their employees be vaccinated. Many healthcare employers, hospitals, nursing homes, already require employees be vaccinated. And while vaccines have not been required for employees outside of healthcare as of yet, there really is nothing stopping this requirement, at least for private employers. So, we have a vaccine that was developed faster than any in history. There's almost no legal protection for you if the vaccine hurts or even kills you. And if you don't get the vaccine, you could literally lose your job. What should you do, given that 2021 really is going to be the year of no shot, no life? Well, I can't tell you what to do, but I want to talk a little bit about how I, as a lawyer and a dad, intend to approach the vaccine. Let me start by saying that I fully intend to get the vaccine both for myself and my children. And I do not intend to wait a year or longer for every possible side effect to be cataloged. However, I am quite happy to not be first in line to get the vaccine. Let me explain. The rollout of the COVID vaccines is going to be the largest vaccine rollout in our history. There are going to be a number of competing vaccines. There are candidates from Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Glaxo, and many others. As each of these vaccines is approved, there's going to be an enormous amount of data available on the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. That data is going to come in two parts: the safety studies that are done prior to approval, as well as information that is gathered afterwards from the people that are vaccinated before those of us in the general population are able to get the vaccine. In my state of Illinois, our governor has announced that around 655,000 healthcare workers and 110,000 residents of communal living centers, which means nursing homes and prisons for the most part. Communal living centers is a euphemism if I ever heard one, will be prioritized to get the vaccine first. In addition, he indicated that certain populations, such as African Americans and Hispanics, that are a higher risk of severe results from a COVID infection, may receive prioritized access to any vaccines. On top of this, the UK has indicated that it will prioritize obese persons as well, and I expect the US will follow suit. There are a number of studies that show that persons with higher than a certain BMI have an astonishingly elevated risk of severe outcomes from COVID. Accordingly, I expect that the earliest that I or my children will be able to receive a vaccine will be late January, with a more probable date being sometime in March or even April. By then, tens or maybe even hundreds of millions of people will have been vaccinated, and the minimum, there will be anecdotal records of bad side effects from the various vaccines, and there will probably be large-scale scientific studies available to inspect. I intend to pore over the records and studies for all the vaccines that are available. I intend to look over them very carefully. I have 3 children, 1 biological, 2 adopted. All of them have very different characteristics, and I intend to look over the records and the studies with all of our specific characteristics in mind. The vaccination schedule that is in place with less healthy persons being vaccinated first should be a benefit to this kind of a study from a safety perspective. Logic tells me that more vulnerable persons that are obese, the elderly, etc., should show adverse effects from the vaccine in greater quantities than healthy persons like myself and my children. And when it comes time to get the vaccine, I intend to demand the vaccine with the best safety record for each of us, even if it means that we have to wait longer or we have to pay more. And if there are serious questions with all the vaccines, we're going to abstain until those questions are no longer there. Accordingly, I'm not in an enormous hurry to get the vaccine. And when it comes our time to actually get the vaccine, I intend to approach it optimistically, but cautiously. I recommend that all of you do the same. Now, I am not telling you not to get the vaccine if there are any adverse side effects. Even with the safest vaccine, a basic study of safety records will show that some people will suffer adverse reactions and some people will probably die. However, if the records show that large percentages of persons, 1% or more in a relevant demographic, are suffering significant adverse effects, a hospital trip or worse, even if the vast majority of those persons recover, then you need to look extremely closely and conduct a risk-benefit analysis for your specific circumstances. These are great questions to raise for your doctor. Have him look at the study with you, have him look at the adverse effects with you, and see if he can help you, guide you through the decision of getting the vaccine. That's what I intend to do. That's what I encourage all of you to do. Be optimistic, lean towards getting vaccinated as soon as you can, but be informed and be cautious. Follow the safety data for the different vaccines carefully. When it comes time to be vaccinated, insist on the safest vaccine, even if you have to wait, even if it costs more money. Keep in mind that if you are injured by a COVID vaccine, it is very possible that the legal system will not be there for you. If that bothers you, write your congressman. That is all I have for you today. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you would like more content like this one. On that point, I may well do a follow-up to this video as relevant developments occur, at least as relevant legal developments occur. I'm still planning on that giveaway as soon as this channel hits 300 subscribers. I'll post details as soon as we cross that line. Take care of your family and stay safe. We are almost at the finish line. Don't get COVID now if you can avoid it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.